I was actually sitting, it wasn't sitting in Religion 100, Earth and Ethics with Dr. Bouma-Prediger that I would attribute to changing my faith and changing my life in many ways. So, great privilege to introduce Dr. Bouma-Prediger, also known as Dr. BP.
On one condition, do not confuse this BP with British. Better? Yeah. I spent 40 years of my life, adult life, working on the intersection as a scholar, the intersection between religion and environmental issues, so I don't want to be confused with a fossil fuel company. Okay, this is a different BP than the more well-known British Petroleum. So, all right. Entrez-vous, s'il vous plaît. When you're in the humanities, I joke with my natural science colleagues, you only had to learn one language in grad school. You already knew it, called mathematics. In the humanities, I learned Hebrew, Greek, Latin, French, German, Dutch, Spanish. So, easy PhD, those biology and chemistry degrees, I tell you. I want to begin with a prayer from Walter Rauschenbusch, someone you've probably never heard of before, but good German name, like Prediger, that's preacher in German. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Any German speakers here? Yeah, the book of Ecclesiastes in the German Bible is Der Prediger, because that's what Koheleth in the Hebrew is preacher. And where we got Ecclesiastes, where'd that come from? The German Bible got it right, Der Prediger. So somewhere way back in the, 16th century, there must have been a preacher. Here's a prayer, though, from Walter Rauschenbusch I thought we'd begin with today. Oh God, we thank you for this universe, our great home, for its vastness and its riches, for the manifoldness of the life which teems upon it, and of which we are a part. We praise you for the arching sky and the blessed winds, for the driving clouds and the constellations on high. We praise you for the salt sea and the running water, for the everlasting hills, for the trees, for the grass under our feet. We thank you, O Lord, for our senses by which we can see the splendor of the morning and hear the jubilant songs of love, smell the breath of springtime. Grant us, we pray you, a heart wide open to all this joy and beauty, and save our souls from being so steeped in care or so darkened by passion that we pass heedless and unseeing when even the thorn bush by the wayside is aflame with the glory of God. Amen. All right, let's do some introductions briefly. Your name and one thing you love about spring. I'm going to start with my friend right here, Mark.
The smell of rain.
The smell of rain. Preach it, brother. What do you think? And who are you?
I'm Daniel.
Daniel. Good biblical name, Daniel.
And I like the flowers coming out.
Flowers coming up? You got a favorite flower?
No.
Guess what the favorite flower is where I live, in Holland, Michigan. We happen to live on Tulip Lane, otherwise known as 12th Street. Tulip Lane isn't the name of a street, it's just a connection of about 6 miles of streets on which the city plants tulips every year. So I didn't even have to plant the tulips, just water them from time to time. But most Hollanders try to leave town during tulip time. You have 1 million people coming into your town.
So you probably heard this. What's the flower between your nose and your chin?
I don't know.
Tulip.
Tulips, there you go. So, all right, let's keep going.
Forsythia.
Forsythia, and you are?
Graham.
Graham, okay.
The birds singing when you go out in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
I'm Gina, and I like the leaves on the trees.
Any favorite tree?
Any tree.
Any tree. Okay, I'm a tree nut. I love those trees. So, have planted trees for each of our daughters. We waited till they were 6 or 7 years old so they would remember the tree planting ritual that we go through. So
That might work. So,
this mic?
yeah. So Pete has it.
Oh, okay. Pass it around.
We're live streaming.
I see. Okay. Oop, okay, we got a green light. So keep going. Name and favorite
Nancy
spring.
and the smell of the earth.
Preach it, sister. Yeah.
Helena and I like the sprouting of the plants coming out of
Okay.
the ground.
Even those weeds in the yard?
Sure, why not?
Weed. What is a weed? Yeah.
My name is Pippa, but my full name is Priscilla, and I like when it's like in the morning and the grass is all wet. And
Yeah.
it's very pretty.
From
and the
dew,
sun is shining.
rain. Yeah, it is pretty. Oh, you already went. Go ahead.
My name's Finley, and my favorite thing to do in the spring is basically waking up in the morning and going outside.
Waking up in the morning and going outside, looking for that dew. Thank you.
I'm Jackie, and I like the pretty little flowers everywhere, and I like all the birthdays in my family that are in spring.
Birthdays in spring, huh?
There's 4 out of 5 birthdays in spring in my
Oh,
family.
boy. Sounds like a full-time celebration. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and I like to when the breeze, just the air feels like it's kissing your skin.
Uh-huh.
It's so warm suddenly.
Being kissed by the ruach, Hebrew for wind or spirit. Yeah.
And Bill, I like the cessation of ice.
Ah, okay.
In all senses.
Multiple meanings in that word ice. I get it. Yep.
I'm Sid, and I like the birds, just how the sound of the birds becomes so unstoppable in your ears all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't know what they're saying, but they sure seem to be having lots of fun. Lots of joy in those bird calls. Thank you.
My name is Margie, and I like the smell of the first cut grass.
Okay, good. Thank you.
My name's Lois. I like the lack of ice on the sidewalk so I can take my nature walks again.
All right. Without fear of falling. Yeah. Got it.
My name is Lynn, and I love the sound of the spring peepers.
Oh, yeah. Again.
So many people have said so many good things.
They stole your thunder, huh?
But my name is Hannah, and I do love the birds in the morning.
You know what your name means in Hebrew?
My name is Brad, and
Grace.
I'm just glad to be out walking again. It's just been so icy this winter that it was been dangerous to walk out there.
Yeah.
So we get a couple miles in a day.
Walk without fear.
My name is Gail, and I'm glad to be rid of heavy winter clothing, coats, boots, in the closet.
Okay, put them away for another season.
My name is Sarah, and my favorite thing about spring is the warmer weather.
All right.
I'm Emma Grace. My favorite thing about spring is once it starts raining, the waterfalls in the state forest by my parents' house start to actually be pretty again.
Okay.
Instead of just covered in ice.
All right. Falling waterfalls.
Hi, my name's Christian. I'm Jackie's dad, and I also enjoy birthday season in the spring.
Okay.
It's Paul, and I like the flowers coming up.
Got a favorite?
Hyacinth.
Hyacinth, beautiful. Thank you.
And my name is Mary, and I just love the birds. When they go out, when I go out the door and hear them, it's a true sign of spring.
Okay, good, wonderful.
My name is Anki, and I also love the birds, and I love the fact that I can open my windows and sleep with my window open at night.
Listen to some animal and bird noise, maybe, yeah? Okay, beautiful. Feel the breeze. Thank you.
My name is Marley, and the best thing about spring for me is the certain color of green that everything starts with, the trees and the grass and everything. It's like that pale yellowy, wonderful green.
My name's Dan, and we also live up north in the summertime, and so this What I like best about spring is when the ice breaks in the Straits of Mackinac.
Yeah, I hear up north is a new state. It's called capital U, capital N, right? Up north. I have friends in the Holland area. They talk about going up north.
You got it.
Like it's, a third part of Michigan. Its own
My
state.
name is Bill, and I like seeing things that look dried, sticks and leaves and everything, and then suddenly there's something green coming up.
Uh-huh.
I'm Norm, and it's nice to go outside that and the bones are connected there.
My name is Chao, and I like spring because we can go walk outdoor and hear the birds and see the flowers, especially tulips.
Especially tulips, yes. Thank you.
Bill, do you want to say something?
I love the birds.
Got a lot of ornithologists here, a lot of bird lovers. That's great. Question for today, why care for the earth? Well, let me read a couple short biblical texts, starting with the first book, ending with the last book. Genesis 2:15. And the Lord God here, Yahweh Elohim, took the man, says my New Revised Standard Translation, but it's Adam, took the human, and put the human in the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it, to avad and shamar, to serve and protect. That's our calling as humans, to serve and protect the earth. First book of the Bible, last book of the Bible. Revelation 21:2. I'll start with verse 1. Then I saw, this is John the seer, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The new there is kainos, not neos, means renewed. God doesn't destroy everything and start all over again. God renews. In the vision that John has here, a new heaven, renewed earth, for the first heaven, first earth had passed away. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. We don't go up to it, it comes down to us. Katabanusan, not anabanusan. Descend, not ascend. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the home of God is among humans. God will dwell with them as their God. Dwell. The Greek is pitch his tent. Anyone slept in tents? You get to know people next to you or in your tent, who snores, who rolls around, hits you in the face with their hand. A new level is intimacy when you're in a tent. Pitched his tent with us. He will pitch his tent, dwell with them, is the translation, as their God, and they will be his peoples, and God himself in person will be with them. Verse 4, and God will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. Why be an earth keeper? I think I have enough to go around. Take one and pass the rest around. Got the green sheet. Let's talk about reasons, 10 reasons to be an earth keeper. And if you want a deeper dive, you can find it in chapter 6 of this book, now in its second edition, For the Beauty of the Earth, one of my books. So if you want a deeper dive, this book, again, second edition, it was originally published about 25 years ago. And a new edition came out just a few years ago. And this is all spelled out in chapter 7, Arguments for Earth Care. Why worry about Galapagos penguins and the jack pine? So, deeper dive, take a look at that book. How many of you breathe? All right, that's to check, make sure you're paying attention. No one's fallen asleep yet. So, good. Always get 100% participation on that one. Well, that's the first argument in the list here, self-interest. If we don't protect the Pacific yew tree, which is in the endangered species list here in North America, there won't be any Taxol, and Taxol is a chemical extracted from Pacific yew trees that helps prevent and treat ovarian cancer among women. Maybe you know someone who has ovarian cancer and is alive because of a chemical extracted from a tree. Or again, the air we breathe. Having lived in LA, I could tell you stories about really bad air. Whereas someone who runs, I'd get up at 6 in the morning or wait till 9 at night to run in Pasadena, California, because the air was literally lethal for 4 months of the year. June, July, August, September. Don't take clean air for granted. Why care for creation? Because if we destroy, even severely diminish certain creatures like Pacific yew trees, or parts of creation like your local river or lake, our own existence is imperiled. So, if you breathe, thank a tree. In fact, go hug a tree. If we had a field trip, that's where we'd go. Find a nice tree and hug a tree. Make sure it wasn't a pine tree, get sap all over us, but in any case. Self-interest, pure and simple. Reason number 2, on loan from our children, future generations, who not only inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. I won't go around, if we had more time, ask you, how many kids you have and grandkids. I've got 3 daughters and a grandchild on the way with my youngest daughter, who's 6 months pregnant, and another adopted grandson from previous marriage of a daughter who married a man who had a son, Emilio, lives in Mexico, since Dad is from Mexico. So, yeah, future generations. We not only inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Basic claim is that we not only inherit the earth from our ancestors, borrow it from our children. I love the great law of the Haudenosaunee, Iroquois Confederacy tribe, upstate New York. For 30 years I've taught a May term course, so we have 2 regular semesters, courses on campus. May term is 4 weeks, so you can go anywhere you want. Students take only 1 class. And I've taught a course called Ecological Theology and Ethics in the Adirondacks of upstate New York for 30 plus years now. Backpacking, canoeing, rock climbing, spending 2 weeks learning about the flora and the fauna of that part of God's good earth. Why there? Because my cohort in crime, my co-instructor, runs a Reformed Church in America church camp, Camp Fowler Camp and Retreat Center in the southern part of the Adirondacks. So he has all the gear and the infrastructure in place to pull off a trip like this. The great law of the Haudenosaunee, Iroquois Confederacy. This is in quotes. In our every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decision on the next 7 generations. That's right out of the Bible, because number 7 is the biblical number of completion. How many I ams in John's Gospel? Take a guess. 7. All over the Bible, from beginning to end, you have numbers that are important. 3, 7, 10, 12. 7 is one of those special numbers, again, signifying completion, perfection. The Haudenosaunee, without reading the Bible, 7 generations. The earth is on loan to us from our children and our children's children. We don't own it, but we're called to care for it. So the second argument here on your sheet, care for creation because we owe it to our children and our children's children. Third, 'tis a gift to be simple. Joyful simplicity argument. Do you know that old Shaker hymn? 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be, and we find ourselves in that place just right. 'Twill be in the valley of love and delight. Or my next door neighbor, social psychologist David Myers. Maybe you've read one of his textbooks. He's written the most widely used introduction to social psychology textbook in the world. Also the most widely used introduction to psychology textbook in the world. He could be living on a big mansion on Lake Michigan. Instead, he lives next door to me, downtown Holland, in the house that he and his wife bought about 40 years ago. He set up a nonprofit organization. He and his wife give almost all the millions of dollars he makes off his book royalties to a whole host of nonprofit organizations. David Myers concludes after an exhaustive review of the literature, this psychologist, that there's no correlation whatsoever between wealth and well-being. You want a deeper dive? Check out his book, The Pursuit of Happiness. That's the title. No correlation between wealth and well-being once you get above the basic poverty level. A simpler way of life liberates us from emulating the lifestyles of the rich and famous. So again, 'tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. Or maybe Henry David Thoreau said it many years ago, I'm quoting, "Most of the luxuries and many of the so-called comforts of life are not only not indispensable, but positive hindrances to the elevation of mankind." In short, why I care for creation? Because such an earth-friendly way of life is simply more joyful. Number 4, poor and oppressed unite. Because the racial composition of a community is the single variable best able to explain the existence or non-existence of commercial hazardous waste facilities in that area, we must make the link between the environmental pollution and issues of racial and social equity. Hence the term coined about 30 years ago, eco-justice, short for environmental justice. Again, I've lived in a lot of big cities. I didn't find this to be the case much in Toronto, but certainly in Los Angeles and very much so in Chicago. Tell me where the dark-skinned people live, and I'll tell you with a high degree of probability where the toxic waste sites are. And the city of Chicago has been trying to clean that up now for a number of decades. But there's a link between so-called social justice issues and so-called environmental issues, hence the term eco-justice. Perhaps the most famous study was a 1987 study entitled Toxic Wastes and Race in the United States, a national report on the racial and socioeconomic characteristics of communities surrounding hazardous waste sites. Charles Lee, the author, one of the authors of that study, states, "The racial composition of a community is the single variable best able to explain the existence or non-existence of commercial hazardous waste facilities. Racial minorities, primarily African Americans and Hispanics, are strikingly overrepresented in communities with such facilities." So in short, why care for creation? Because the various forms of oppression are of a piece. They're connected. If we care for humans who are treated unjustly, then we should also care for an exploited creation. All right, number 5 there, bottom of the page. Spotted owls have rights too. Animal rights. Tom Regan, R-E-G-A-N, is perhaps the most well-known scholar on this particular topic. He says this, if an organism is the subject of a life, i.e. a conscious being with interest, then that organism has inherent value. Certain animals are in fact subject of a life. Think of your pet dog. Thus those animals have inherent value. And if an organism has inherent value, then it has moral rights. Therefore certain animals have moral rights. Now where you draw that line is a big debate. But clearly there are some animals who fit the bill here. And so Reagan and others argue they have rights, which means we humans have duties as moral agents in the world to respect those rights. In short, why care for creation? Or more exactly, certain kinds of non-human creatures in addition to humans. Because they, like us, are entitled to such care. Flip the page. Value generates duty. Intrinsic value, I talked about that already. That's to be distinguished from instrumental value. Instrumental value means something is valuable because it's useful to us. Intrinsic value means irrespective of its usefulness, it is valuable simply in and of itself and for itself. And if you're a Christian, because God made it, it's valuable. Holmes Ralston III, very well known, actually one of the pioneers of environmental philosophy and ethics, Colorado State faculty member, now retired. Holmes puts it this way: we follow what we love, and the love of an intrinsic good is always a moral relationship. Value generates duty. So I'm borrowing from him the title of this. It says this: since there's intrinsic value in certain creatures in the natural world and places, since the presence of such value generates duties for us humans, we have obligations to care for non-human creatures. Care for creation because creation is valuable for its own sake, in addition to its value because of its usefulness to us. We do, after all, need to eat to survive. We need to breathe air, etc. Number 7, one of my favorites, community of creation. We're all in this together. You've seen the photos, I'm sure, the Earth from space, a single seamless web of a planet, devoid of political boundaries, dramatically evoking a sense of our finitude, our connectedness, our fragility. So, community of creation argument. One of the most influential arguments of this type comes from Aldo Leopold. If you don't know that name, Google it and read anything he wrote. Sand County Almanac would be a good place to start. Classic book, included in virtually all environmental history and philosophy courses in the world. Aldo Leopold writes, all ethics rest upon a single premise, I'm quoting, that the individual is a member of a community of interdependent parts. From this premise, Leopold formulates his famous ethical maxim: a thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability, and beauty of the biotic community. It is wrong when it tends otherwise. Right when it preserves the integrity, stability, and beauty of the biotic community. We would say maybe ecosystem. Or John Muir, come out west with me. Sequoia, Kings Canyon National Parks, among other places, Yosemite. 8 decades prior to Leopold, John Muir invoked a similar argument when he asserted, I quote, when you try to pick out anything by itself, you find it hitched to everything else in the universe. That's true. The entire interconnected and interdependent community that is creation forms the proper context for human action and should guide our ethical decision making. And there are a number of Christian forms of this argument. Sounding very much like John Muir, pioneering ecological theologian Joseph Sittler. You've probably never heard of him, even you Lutherans. This is a Presbyterian church, but maybe you grew up Lutheran. Joseph Sittler, writing prior to World War II. I wrote 100 pages on Joe Sittler, 100 pages on my doctoral dissertation, 100 pages on 2 other folks as well. Jürgen Moltmann, Rosemary Radford Ruther, ecofeminist, Roman Catholic, Lutheran. Moltmann's Reformed. Sittler, long before it became fashionable, said this: I've never been able to entertain an idea of God that was not integrally related to the fact of chipmunks, squirrels, hippopotamuses, galaxies, and light years. End quote. Great quote from Joe Sittler. Or, I just mentioned Jürgen Moltmann, contemporary Reformed theologian, echoes Sittler when he says, I quote, the creatures of the natural world are not there for the sake of human beings. Human beings are there for the sake of the glory of God, which the whole community of creation extols. End quote. So why care for creation? Because all creatures are created for the glory of God and designed to sing God's praises. Just take a look at Psalm 104, or 148, or 150, or I could keep going. The Psalter itself, the hymn book of Jews and Christians, prayer book as well. There are all kinds of nature psalms hidden back there in the book of Psalms. God says so, divine command. Since God commands that we care for creation, since authentic faith requires obedience to God, we should care for creation as part of our Christian discipleship. I read Genesis 2:15 already. Our calling is to avad and shamar, serve and protect our home planet. Or Leviticus 25, we're commanded to give the land a Sabbath. Not only humans are supposed to get a Sabbath, but the land, one day every week, is also supposed to get a Sabbath. And after 7 times 7 years, there's that number again, after 49 years, extra credit bonus points, what are we supposed to do? The year of Jubilee. Take the Monopoly board, throw it up in the air, and everyone gets a fresh start. Check it out. Year of Jubilee. Did the Israelites ever do that? We don't have any evidence that they did, but there it is in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. Year of Jubilee. So if you got swindled out of your 40 acres, maybe your kids or grandkids will get it back after 49 years. Oh, genuine Christian discipleship requires that we obey God's commands, one of which is that we care for the earth and its creatures. Number 9, God's concerns ought to be our concerns, the image of God. Humans are meant to be God's image bearers, Genesis 1 and 2, especially Genesis 1, 26 through 28. And being an image bearer of God involves caring for the needs of others, including our non-human neighbors. So we must show concern for more than just humans. We should care for creation because God's concerns for other creatures ought also to be our concerns. Last but not least, for the beauty of the earth, to quote the title of a famous hymn, Grateful Heart. Care for creation is a fitting response of gratitude for creatures like us who experience God's bountiful and gracious provisions. Someone does something for you that you couldn't otherwise do. What do? You say, thank you. What better way to say thank you than to care for this planet? It's a gift from God. Forget the duties and obligations and all that stuff. This way of saying thank you. Appropriate. Cal DeWitt, founder of the Ensemble Institute for Environmental Studies up in northern Lower Peninsula of Michigan, up north. I'm the chair of the board of the Ensemble Institute. Been teaching college students for about 30 years now how to take care of our home planet. Every summer we have 100 or so students there, faculty from all over, mostly public universities, including University of Michigan, Michigan State, University of Wisconsin. Our care for God's creatures is the appropriate and proper response to God's providential care for us. In short, we should care for creation because grace begets gratitude, and gratitude begets care. And Presbyterians, right? So Reformed tradition. I'll remind you of what John Calvin has to say. He refers to creation, I'm quoting, this is from so-called Institutes. Instruction on Christian piety is a better translation of the Latin, institutio. So Calvin writes, he refers to creation as, quote, this most glorious theater, this most beautiful theater for which we should praise God. For Calvin, creation is, I'm quoting him again, this magnificent theater of heaven and earth crammed with innumerable miracles, valuable for its own sake as well as for its provisions to humans. So the Heidelberg Catechism, those of us who are Reformed, Presbyterians, you have a long, nice, robust list of catechisms and confessions. In my tradition, Dutch Reformed tradition, the Heidelberg Catechism, the whole catechism is structured: guilt, grace, gratitude. Sin, salvation, service is another way of looking at that triad. But notice, yeah, we recognize that we are sinners. We receive, through an act of faith, God's grace. And we live the lives we do, or try to, as a way of saying thank you. Gratitude for God's grace. Henry Staub puts it this way: what drives the Christian to love and obedience is thankfulness. This gives to the moral life a characteristic note of joy. Appreciative of God's mercy, thankful for God's unspeakable gift, happy in God's gracious conferments, the Christian seeks what might, with might in main, to show forth God's praises and to do God's will. So, grateful heart, care for creation because grace begets gratitude, and gratitude begets care. All right, there's some reasons. Now let's get down and get dirty, in the proper sense of that term. Caring for creation in our own backyard. What can we actually do? Let's start with that side, and we'll look at the flip side. Caring for creation in our own backyard. Well, at home, you can start easy and cheap, like turn the light off when you leave a room. If I had $1 for every time I've turned a light off at Hope College, I would have enough money to buy every one of you a very nice meal. Probably even every one of you a very nice vehicle. I'm talking thousands of dollars in the last 3 decades, leaving rooms. I always flip the light switch off, but then I walk down the hallway of whatever building I'm in, and the rooms are empty and the lights are on. Now, I get it if someone's coming in right away, you don't want to be flipping the lights off and all, depending on what kind of lighting you have. But it's remarkable. It's most of my colleagues, as much as the students, who just don't have a habit of turning the light off. Or dialing down your thermostat just 1 degree. Or keeping your vehicle tires, whether they're a bicycle or a car, properly inflated so you get better fuel efficiency, right? More miles per gallon on tires that are properly inflated. So there's a whole bunch of relatively easy things we can do at home. Or you can make more substantive changes. For example, replacing inefficient appliances. When that refrigerator that's 20 years old goes kerplunk, make sure you get an energy efficient one. And now they're rated. When you buy washers, dryers, refrigerators, you can get a rating on how energy efficient they are. Or you can eat less meat. I've been a vegetarian twice as long as any of my students have been alive. 45 years. I became a vegetarian, lacto-ovo vegetarian, so I eat cheese, I drink milk. I'm not a vegan, that's different. As a result of a class I took at Hope College, now I'm teaching that class. I don't know how many students are taking vegetarianism seriously because I don't directly talk about that, but and I won't go into the 7 reasons, there's 7 again, you ought to become, or seriously think about your diet on this issue. But eating less meat, composting waste if that's possible, walking or biking if that's possible, again, instead of driving to work or wherever. Put into practice one thing you've learned from a friend, a book, a class. Solamente uno, just one thing. At work, be a gadfly for recycling paper, turning out lights, saving water, whatever it is that looks like maybe, again, some so-called low-hanging fruit, something that would be relatively easy for you and others to do at your workplace. Show how being an earth keeper, this will help with your boss, will save money. Almost always it does. In some cases it may take years to get that initial investment right in the black, but in many cases it's relatively quickly. Be persistent, don't give up. In your neighborhood, share a tool, share a ladder, share a car. I live in a 130-year-old house in the historic district in downtown Holland, and we don't have a garage, never has had a garage, so I don't have a place to put a big ladder. I only need a ladder maybe once every other year to get up on the roof to do whatever, which is what I'm going to do next couple days. But my next door neighbor, Dave Myers, the social psychologist I was talking about, has a garage and he has a ladder. And one of the first things he did when we moved into our house was he came over and gave me the passcode to his garage. Has a door, it goes up and down, so I could get in and use his ladder. Why do I need to buy a ladder when he has one that's used, once or twice a year? It's in good shape. I thought, wonderful hospitality from my next door neighbor. And I happen to have some tools that he doesn't have, so he has the same way to get into my basement and use whatever tools that he needs that he doesn't have to go buy. So, yeah, share a ladder, share a car. We've done that too. We had 5 drivers at one point in one car. We were able to pull that off because the younger kids were able to walk to their schools. They weren't yet working. But all kinds of possibilities here in your neighborhood. Plant a tree. Start a garden, clean up a park, talk with your neighbors, and work together. At your church, this church, join with others and start an earthkeeping group if you don't already have one. Creation care group, whatever you want to call it. Champion getting rid of things like styrofoam cups, recycling plastic, using less paper, whatever seems easy at first at least. And become deacon, elder, whatever the office is in your church. We have similar offices, Reformed Church and Presbyterian, but our Anglican brothers and sisters, our Roman Catholic brothers and sisters have, again, offices where you can steward resources at your church and in your community. In your local community, participate in the activities of a local environmental education organization. I mentioned just one in my neck of the woods back in Holland, Michigan. The Outdoor Discovery Center merged some years ago with the Makatawa Greenway. I was the chair of the board of the Greenway. We found ourselves overlapping a lot in what we were doing. Said, let's just become one organization. Now it's the Outdoor Discovery Network. One of my former Hope students, Travis Williams, is speaking all over the world because of the things we're doing in West Michigan to make the place a better place, environmentally speaking. Become a member of a local chapter of a national nature conservation organization like the Audubon Society, all you birders. I'm guessing some of you already are members of Audubon. Or Land Conservancy or Nature Conservancy. Again, I'm members of all those groups, local groups. We just had a local Land Conservancy meeting actually in West Michigan. Support with time and money those groups that serve, protect. There's Genesis 2:15. And let's add restore. Serve, protect, and restore your community and all its inhabitants. Last but not least, in your state and country, contact an elected representative and make your views known. A little known fact in my neck of the woods at the, city council's non-political, there's no parties there, but county, state, federal government, at every level in Ottawa County is a Republican. We have no Democrats. I'm guessing that's not true here. Maybe the other way around. Well, in any case, but I and lots of other folks continue to send letters. I sent one out to Peter Huizinga just the other day saying thank you for your support on this, because he actually signed his name on something that was important to us. So contact an elected representative either online or by phone or in person. Make your views known. And your could be plural, not just singular there, right? Join and support a national, international, environmental organization, and vote for those who vigorously support caring for our home planet. All right, flip the page. I've listed some helpful books, and above that is a funky little diagram. I don't remember where I found that originally, but this is focusing on global warming and all kinds of possibilities at home, at work, when we travel, using less, shopping bags of a certain sort, using more recycled paper, canceling your junk mail. Lots of possibilities here to get us thinking creatively about things we can do to take better care of our home planet. And I've listed in the bibliography here some helpful books on practical earthkeeping. Practical from the Greek word praxis, action. Things we can do. Caring for creation in your own backyard. Right here, Lauren and Mary Ruth Wilkinson. Lauren and Mary Ruth taught at Regent College in Vancouver, British Columbia for about 30 years, old friends of mine. This is a really good book. In fact, I bought this at Regent College when I was there for a speaking gig about 20 years ago. I forgot to get Lauren and Mary Ruth to sign it, but I'll do that some other day. But very creative book. The whole book is organized around seasons. Part 1 is autumn. Reduce, reuse, recycle are the titles of the 3 chapters in autumn. Part 2 is winter. Make it, fix it, share it. Chapters 4, 5, and 6. Part 3 is spring. Chapters 7, 8, and 9. Planting, eating, and protecting. And summer, things to do. There's meditations, also biblical meditations beginning each of these sections. Chapters 10, 11, and 12. Here, learning to be at home. There, travel, vacation, and care for creation. Chapter 12, everywhere. So a very creatively organized book with literally hundreds of specific things that we can do to be better caretakers of our home planet. So that's number 1 there. Facing the Climate Emergency, Margaret Klein Solomon. Following Jesus in a Warming World, former student of mine, Meyer-Skop. The Green Boat by Mary Pfeiffer. David Cucci, a colleague of mine at Calvin University in Grand Rapids. Living the Good Life on God's Good Earth. And then don't forget Deb Rienstra, Refugia Faith. And I've got that book here. Also a friend teaches at Calvin. Seeking Hidden Shelters, Ordinary Wonders, and the Healing of the Earth. A really good book, still in print, including as a hardback book. Leah Costamo, Planted, A Story of Creation, Calling, and Community. It's a biography, basically, of she and her family caring for creation seriously. Mindful Meals, Windows into Wonder, Naming, Not Claiming, Living Justly, Loving Mercy, Walking Humbly, Micah 6:8 chapter. So there's a nice picture of her in the back. And then you may be more familiar with this book by Catherine Hayhoe, who is a Christian, by the way. Saving Us, A Climate Scientist's Case for Hope and Healing in a Divided World. And it's not just about the science, but it's about, again, what we can do to be better Earth keepers. Okay. Let me conclude with a poem. Well, a quote in a poem. The quote is from Edmund Burke, B-U-R-K-E. No one made a greater mistake than the person who did nothing because she or he could do only a little. This was about 100 years ago, and he made this claim, and it was man and he. I've inclusified the language, but the point is the same. No one made a greater mistake than the person who did nothing because he or she could do only a little. Especially when you talk about the climate crisis, it seems so huge, so intractable. What can one person do? Well, maybe more than we think. Did Martin Luther King Jr. say, what can one person do, so I'm not going to do that? No. Lots of people. Civil rights movement, creation care movement, who refuse to give in to that claim that one person can't do anything, so I'm not going to do this. Let me conclude with a poem from Wendell Berry. This is one of his published books of poetry. Now there's 2 volumes that have all his poetry in a 2-volume set. You don't have to dig up all the 12 or 13 individual publications. But let me conclude with that crazy Kentucky farmer, poet, novelist, you name it. He's won awards in all different kinds of books. Whatever is foreseen in joy must be lived out from day to day. Vision held open in the dark by our 10,000 days of work. Harvest will fill the barn. For that the hand must ache, the face must sweat. And yet, no leaf or grain is filled by work of ours. The field is tilled and left to grace. That we may reap, great work is done while we're asleep. And when we work well, a Sabbath mood rests on our day and finds it good. No leaf or grain is filled by work of ours. Who's doing that work? God. The field is tilled and left to grace, that we may reap that corn or those flowers. Great work is done while we're asleep. So when we work well, a Sabbath mood rests on our day and finds it good. Thanks for inviting me here to be with you today. Do we have time for a question or two? Looks like 4 minutes to noon. Preguntas, por favor.
Can I ask you a question?
You can, go right ahead. I hope I can answer it.
I'm thinking about the problems with extraction and the relationship of caring for the earth and the politics of extraction. And also about the relationship of certain kinds of Christian churches and the idea or the denial of something like global climate change, man-induced climate change.
Yeah.
I wonder what you anticipate about younger people in some of the more evangelist side of Christianity. Do you think they're becoming a powerful force for intervening in a kind of resistance to fundamentalist Christianity with regard to climate change?
Answer is yes, and I speak as a evangelical. I'm evangelical, reformed, ecumenical. I don't see any problem being all three. I grew up in a Baptist church in Muskegon, Michigan, not too far from here. And while I've given up the fundamentalism that went with that, I'm happy to say it taught me the Bible is important to read, and here are some ways to read it. A few years in seminary and graduate school also helped a lot in reading the Bible the way it should be read in its context, preferably in the original languages, or reading commentaries from people who know those languages. So, yeah, and I see a lot of hope in the current generation, students I have anyway. Now, I don't teach graduate students. Hope is just undergraduate. And I tell that to my students, some of whom are a bit bitter, and rightly so, that the earth they're inheriting from my generation is not in real good shape, especially when it comes to climate. But there's all kinds of other stuff too, endangered species, water, air. But the climate crisis is the one I think they're most worried about. And again, I have 3 daughters and a couple of grandkids, and what grandparent doesn't desperately hope that the earth they pass off to their children and grandchildren is at least as good, if not better, than the one they inherited from their grandparents. I've yet to do a talk anywhere, especially with other than college students, people like you who have children and grandchildren. I've never found anyone who says, I don't care about the future because, I don't care about my grandkids. So that's a powerful argument. We want to hand off at least as good, if not better, a planet. At least I do, and everyone I've met. So what does that mean for doing a better job in our local place and maybe in other ways as well? So again, don't just be one person. You're not already just one person. You've got a bunch of people here, probably others here in this church, in this community, whether they're Christian or not, that you can join arms with, in some cases literally. Got a protest coming up in Holland in another week or so. So, I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Other
Anybody
questions?
else have a question?
So, in your teaching at Hope, are you seeing any effect in the governmental denigration of climate change currently? Are you seeing any pressure on the college, on your teaching, from what the government is saying is denying, basically?
I don't. But I know I have some friends at public universities that feel more vulnerable. I teach at a private college, and there are government restrictions of certain sorts, but I and no one I know at Hope is sort of scaling back what they teach because they're afraid of the government. I'm certainly not. I'm teaching more courses on God-Earth ethics, ecological theology and ethics, environmental history and philosophy. I'm the program director for the environmental studies major, not just environmental science, environmental studies. So we have courses on environmental issues in the arts, environmental history, philosophy, literature, etc. I'm sure you do here. University of Michigan as well. So, but I haven't met anyone at Hope yet. You know, maybe other places. Again, public universities may feel more pressure, but anyone at Hope who's, you know, scaled back on what they're teaching because of King Trump and his minions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you explain to us why it is that people resist the idea of man-made climate crisis issues? I've been with conservative family. They are just adamant that this is not happening. It's just the natural cycles that happen. And somehow that's very important to them, and I don't understand that.
Well, you have to acknowledge there are natural cycles, but the scientific evidence for 20 years has been very clear, and it's been available to the public, that what we've been experiencing is abnormal, beyond the normal cycles. So someone who's not willing to look at the science, boy, I don't know what you do.
It's curious. Though.
Yeah, I mean, how can you care for something if you don't know how it works? Whether it's your car or your skateboard or your house or the earth, right? I mean, we ought to have environmental courses required at every college and university in this country if we're serious about taking care of our home planet. But that's not the case, although it's increasingly so. Certainly from when I started teaching long ago, decades ago, there were very few places that had required courses for all graduates at the undergraduate level. And there was a bunch of those schools that got together and formed the Eco League. That was their name. About half a dozen schools that you had to take certain environmental courses for a graduation requirement, regardless of what you were majoring in. So, other. You got a comment, question down here. Oh, got it?
We have a home in Colorado, although we live here most of the time.
Where in Colorado?
Golden.
Oh, okay.
Just outside
Yep.
Denver.
I used to lead wilderness trips out there.
Oh.
Long ago. But yeah, beautiful state.
But Colorado, or the governor of Colorado, is not a friend of Washington. And as a consequence, the National Renewable Energy Lab, which we can see from our home, we don't believe in renewable energy. So that's been renamed.
Yeah.
Now there's a threat to close down NCAR, which is a national center for atmospheric research, which is not just a national center, but a worldwide
international,
center.
yeah.
And in addition, there was a bill. Water is always a problem. The Colorado River going right down, and the states make decisions about who can get what, ignoring the needs of the Indian communities.
Yeah.
There was a bill to try to remedy that was vetoed recently. And it just seems that if you go against the powers that be, then you suffer. But these are, three things in the state of Colorado which are going to have, national, if not national, international impact.
A couple comments. Go ahead and pass that next. We're almost out of time, or maybe we are out of time. One response I have is this too will pass. Now, it doesn't mean we don't do anything now. We should. We need to. But just remember that this particular time in U.S. history, I'm talking to some history colleagues, and they're wondering what will be written 30 years from now when historians are writing about this particular time in U.S. history. When I used to teach George Orwell's book 1984, I never thought I'd be living it out in my own country. What will historians say? Regardless of right, left, wing, Republican, Democrat, what will they conclude looking back on this particular time? One of my colleagues had a quick answer to that question, that Donald Trump will be viewed as the worst president in the history of the United States. And I think he's probably right, at least from what I know about the various presidents, and we had some good ones and not so good ones, as you well know. But we need to keep, okay, on the one hand, this too will pass, but then we need to keep active in the ways that we can, are available, to make sure that there's enough water for the people who need it, especially people who don't look like me in Colorado. Because again, there's that eco-justice theme again, right? The environmental issue is directly connected to a basic human need issue. Without water, we don't exist. We take it for granted here in Michigan, 20% of the Earth's surface freshwater surrounded our state. But that's not the case in many other parts of the world. So I lived in an irrigated desert for 4 years. It's called Los Angeles. That's what it is. And there were times when there was not enough water, and this was 30 years ago. So, great questions. Keep up the good work that you're doing here in whatever ways you can, or in Colorado. Join with others. Again, you're not alone. And we have power to make change because we've done it before. So, yeah, one more. Okay.
Actually, I would like to make a promotion for a group at church that is working with the Environmental Voting Project. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And it's a group that sends out postcards to potential voters who have shown an interest in the environment, but don't vote regularly. And so the postcards go out to urge them to vote. And the data shows that this has been quite successful in getting voters out. So
personal invitation to go vote?
Yeah. And so if any of you are interested, Susan Wetlock leads this group, and we're hoping to do 1,000 postcards here in May and June.
That's a great idea.
It's just a promotion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. This is a small plant. It just came up.
It's a ginkgo.
And,
yeah, look at that.
I'll take this out because this is not natural. So now you've got a natural. And this plant will be with you as you drive back.
I planted a ginkgo tree for one of my daughters. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's very kind. I'll have to strap it in a seatbelt in the car just to make sure it doesn't roll around. Yeah. Again, there's a pile of books up here if you want to take a look at any of them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lovely presentation.
Great.
We learned a lot. So
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Wendell Betty quoted so often. And I used to rub shoulders with him.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was in the English department.